Okay, welcome back. This is really an extension of my last video. But I think perhaps of all the scenes, this one would be the most controversial. And I have to say, since taking a look at this, this whole event from beginning to end, having read all the interviews, having seen all the interviews, having seen all the pieces of footage, having looked at all the newspapers, how they've presented it, seeing all the still images, I haven't found a single image or a single clip of audio or a single video that is not in some way controversial. And in fact, I think, it would take forever to unravel this if we were not to try and somehow prioritize the anomalies. I don't think there's any point in just shouting fake or false flag. I don't think there's anything to be gained from shouting down witnesses, calling them liars, or even I would go as far as we shouldn't really be deciding who is telling the truth and who is giving falsehoods, either because of the way they express themselves or because it goes against the official narrative or because it follows the official narrative. Just because something doesn't necessarily tally with what you believe or with what other people have said, that doesn't mean that those people are lying or acting. No, that doesn't mean either that they're not acting. But here's the way I look at it. If there's a truth and two people witness it, then both of them can give you good information, both witnesses, whether or not they're telling you the truth. And that's especially so in these kinds of situations. Now, if you believe somebody is giving you false information, then that would lead you to investigate that particular aspect of the situation. So it's not necessarily negative if you believe, and indeed are correct, that somebody is telling you a falsehood. It's still information. So anyway, that's really the way I'm viewing this. I'm really trying very hard to look at what's in front of us. And it doesn't matter really whether I think something is true or false. I think it's all relevant, the false and the true. We need a complete picture. You can't just dismiss what you don't agree with or approve of. It's all information. It all helps unravel. So this scene is in many ways true, and this scene is also in many ways false. I mean, the truth of the matter is that there's a vehicle here on the pavement where it shouldn't be, surrounded by people, in front of which are two people between the vehicle and the wall, laying down in front of the vehicle. That's the truth of this image. How this vehicle came to be on the pavement is what we need to find out. How the people came to be under the front of the vehicle, we also need to find out. There are also some things this image and this video is not able to tell us, simply because it's a fixed view, and anything that occurs beyond our view we are unable to assess. We can, however, study everything surrounding that. We can look at all these people, we can look at everything this side of the scene, we can study everything in front of the scene, all the buildings behind the scene, the vehicles on the road. All important information. So anyway, for those of you that haven't seen this footage, I'm just going to play it through, and I'm going to play it through without a sound. Just so we can see what's going on here. Okay, and one more time. Okay. Now, a few things I'll let you know. Firstly, I have enhanced this slightly. I've increased the saturation and the contrast and the brightness a tad, just to make everything in the scene slightly more distinct, to make it easier for us to see, basically. It's not a very good quality video, none of these are. Something else I need to let you know, this Steadicam, and this is a Steadicam view, not a mobile phone as it may appear, or it may be a mobile phone, but it will be mounted on a Steadicam, is positioned inside a bus, diagonally adjacent to the vehicle through the facade to where we're viewing from. And the person who's shooting this video is standing inside the bus, and what we have here, what appears to be smoke in front of the car, or steam, and there is in fact some steam coming out of the car, but what we're mostly seeing here, and you will notice as we play the video, and I'll play it one more time after mentioning this, these are reflections that the camera is picking up from inside the bus, and this is the inside of the curved glass from the double-decker red bus that is diagonally opposite this incident, and I'll show you that as we go through this. I have another position I need to play, and we'll see the bus and we'll see from whence this shot was taken. Okay, so I'll just play it through one more time, and perhaps you'll see the reflections on the glass as the vehicles pass as well. Okay, there we go. Okay, so there we go. Now, why I think this scene is of particular importance is that there are a number of shots from this scene from different angles, and I'll play those for you and we'll talk about those as well. But to give you the official narrative for how this scene came about is the occupant drove this car entering from the South Bank side of the Westminster Bridge, beginning to strike pedestrians at 14:40 exactly, driving at high speed then across Westminster Bridge, where he exited just before these buildings you see up here in front of us, and coming then down here on the cycle path. Okay, exiting the cycle path, crashing into the wall where the vehicle came to a rest. The occupant then exited the vehicle, continued down the path here alongside of the cycle path, where he again, a few yards down the road, turns left, enters the gates of the Westminster Palace Gardens, walks towards the Westminster Palace entrance inside the gardens, where he is approached by a policeman. He stabs the policeman and he's then shot dead by a ministerial bodyguard at 14:41. So this scene here, and there is no time reference incidentally, this scene here therefore occurred, according to the official narrative, somewhere between 1440 and 1441. Now, we can't verify that. There's nothing to verify the time in this scene, or indeed in any other video of this scene. But we do have several different videos of this scene, and there is an order to them, so what I will attempt to do is give order to those different videos that are available for this scene, so that we can begin to understand the narrative peculiar to this scene. Okay? So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to zoom in to a particular place. Which will be around about there. And I'm going to tell you what is in this image. Now, let's just center that a little bit better. On the right here, we have a person standing with a hooded top. Could be a hoodie, could be an anorak, could be a hoodie under an anorak. This is their face. It's the edge of the hood. There's the hood. So this person is standing and facing forward. Towards this person here. Now behind this person, but slightly to the right, is another figure. Another hooded figure. This is a hoodie. This is the hand of this person, and this is their arm. Now I know that's very hard to see, but as we begin to animate this scene, you'll see what this is. Another person here, ponytail, hair, jacket, and a slightly extended right arm. Okay. This person here, I believe, has at least one arm raised above, perhaps not above their head, but level to their head here. This is an arm. I'm guessing her left arm. Now, as I move the frames forward slowly, you will see this figure move towards these two figures here. So I'll just do that now for a start. Follow the figure on the right. See, 1 frame, 2 frame, 3 frames. As this person begins to move forward, you'll notice they appear to move slightly down also. And when we play it at a faster speed, you'll get the impression that this person is rushing towards these two people here. So this person appears to be rushing these people. I'll just move it a few more frames for you to see that. There. You can see they're now at an angle, slightly lower. Now something else happened there. I'll just pop back a couple of frames. This person here, this hooded figure here, this is their arm, this is their hand. You'll notice as this figure moves forward towards these two, so this person unfolds their arm and straightens it towards this person here. Okay? Here we go. Arm coming out, extending their arm now fully extended and pointed towards the approaching character. Let me just toggle that a few times for you. It's actually easier to see for some reason as I toggle in reverse, but you get this, you get the idea. So this person here is moving forward. This arm is now extended. This figure has also extended an arm here. If you can notice that, you'll see his arm just swinging forward, just coming into view. There you go. Just like that. Just there. Let's go back to the beginning. Person standing, person moves forward, person on the left extends their arm, points it at the face of the oncoming person raises their right arm, but continues to move forward. This person now with the ponytail begins to extend their arm also towards this oncoming person, until we get to this point. This person appears then to lower their form, lower their body, and in the next few frames you'll notice that this person falls into this person as if trying to push past them or grapple with them or some such thing. So I'll just move the focus there a little so we can see that play out. Just take it back a few frames. Again, person outreaches on person oncoming, person keeps coming, falls forward into this person on the left. And with the inertia here, this person now, in the next few frames, will begin to fall backwards. Here they make contact. The oncoming person raises their arm as if to grab this person here, and together they fall back towards the left of the image. So let's just take you through that again, a slightly wider focus, and we can see the whole event unfold. Okay, person on the right rises, comes forward. This person points something, or just their arm, at this person. This person begins to extend their arm. Contact is made here, and they begin to fall back together. So that's the scene. Person comes in from the right, one person raises an arm, extends it towards that person, person carries on coming, stoops down, goes into a kind of a launch squat, falls into the person with the ponytail, and they fall back together to that point. Now what happens next is very frustrating, but also quite telling. Because if I progress now another few frames, what will happen as these two start falling back together, so the video is edited and this person is deleted from the scene. Or rather, a number of frames are deleted, and when the video is reintroduced, this person is no longer in the scene. So, coming forward, contact is made, something is going to happen now, but we don't see it because here the video is cropped. Person disappears, and so do the few frames. The person now reveals their face, no longer a figure standing in front, perhaps falling in front of the vehicle here where this person seems to be looking. But either way, it's not in the position that they were in previously, so I'll just go back there. It's almost like he evaporates just at the last minute. So, here, and the frame cuts out here. Okay, and that's the cut. That's the cut in the scene right there. Now, like I mentioned earlier, this edit here, it's persistent in all copies of this video. So either the original that was provided had the edit, or the distributor of this video edited this. Either way, it's quite obviously been edited. Now from such a distance, zooming out, it's hard to notice, and I've also contrasted it, so if I turn the contrast off and the colours, and we just play it through, we don't notice that anything's happened. It's so far away, it's so subtle, the figure's barely noticeable anyway. It's not until we zoom in, give it some contrast, that we realise that anything at all has happened in this place. But it quite obviously has. There's an altercation basically here. This is an altercation. Now, I think this extended arm here, pointing at this person's face, excuse me, I've got a bit of a frog in my throat this evening, is a weapon. Now, I don't know if that weapon is used, and that's why this person falls into this person. I can't say. I don't see any smoke coming from the weapon, if it is a weapon. And there's no sound on the audio file associated with that happening. Now, they've ghosted out the person in a video edit, so I suppose it is possible that they've also ghosted out the shot, if indeed there was one. But the reason I'm saying this is a weapon is, as we go through this video, you'll see there's a consequence to this altercation. This altercation has a consequence that reconfigures this whole scene. It changes this scene entirely, from what we see here to something completely different. And that's why I'm suggesting this is possibly a weapon. It may not be. Either way, this is a defensive stance against this person, and as we see, if we just go back to the beginning to here, we can see the arm thing going on there. Anyway, this person appears to just fall against these people now, and the inertia continues on through the person he falls against, and then edit, cut, disappeared, they're gone. Right, now I have analysed the audio file for this video, and where this video edit takes place there is no corresponding audio edit. That is to say that although the video has been cut at this point a number of frames, and I'd say it's very few, just enough, maybe a split second, maybe half dozen frames, maybe less. This video is running 29.7 frames per second, so you could knock a few frames out of that. It wouldn't really upset the time too much. But bear in mind that frames have been cut on the video but not on the audio. Therefore, after this point, after this edit, the audio track for this video will be delayed by the number of frames in time that this video has been cut by. So let's say, for example, that we took out 1 second of video frames. So the audio track being uncut following that edit would be 1 second delayed. That's just an example. I think it's much less than that. We're talking just a few frames, somewhere like 3, 4, half dozen frames, so a fraction of a second in audio, maybe a half second, maybe a quarter second, something like that. The audio will be delayed after this edit point, and that's important. Edit, edit, further back, falls, fall back, edit, falls, fall back, edit. From the beginning one more time. Man comes forward, they resist, he falls into them, they fall back, edit, disappeared. Okay, that's it. So let's turn that off. So now I really need to overemphasize this point about the cut of the video without the cut of the audio. It's just so central to this scene. So we have an audio delay after the point at which the edit is made. So now I'm going to tell you what I'm looking at here, and I'm going to tell you what to be looking for as I play this through. It's still going to be in slow motion, but not quite so slow. And this time I'm going to enable the audio. It will probably sound quite bad because it's just going to be captured through the internal microphone. But what I want you to pay attention to, we can dispense with the altercation here. We don't need to focus on that right now. We need to focus on something else. We need to focus on this crowd scene here behind the car. They look quite close to the car, but they're actually quite some distance back from the car. This is just caused by the low angle we have. But you'll see that in another video that we'll take a look at shortly, which is the other angle from the other side of this car. But for the time being, I just want you to focus on this crowd. And what you'll notice is, at the beginning of the scene, the crowd are milling around over here, and then something draws them to the scene. I guess the crashed car in the wall. Either way, they begin, as the scene progresses, they begin to move towards the car. After the edit, they continue to move towards the car, but slower as they get closer. And then also after the edit, we will hear gunshots in slow motion. The sound will also be slow, and it will be bang, bang, pause, bang. So there will be 3 shots. These are the shots that the ministerial guard apparently caused by shooting the assailant in Westminster Palace Gardens. So these are the 3 shots: bang, bang, pause, bang. This is in slow motion, remember. So this will be after the edit, and after the crowd has come as close as it does to the car. What you will notice, if you focus on the crowd only, is immediately before those 3 shots, the crowd, rather than closing in on the car, suddenly begin to move away from the car. So this is what I want you to focus on. So I'll play it through slow motion with sound. Okay, here we go. Edit. Just increase the volume slightly. Right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to progressively speed this up. I'm going to broaden our field of view somewhat. And again, focus on the crowd. And I'm going to speed this up to normal speed. And then I'll take it over normal speed, but this is normal speed. Crowd moving closer. Then they back off. Now they really back off. There you go. Now, of course, I could delay the audio until it matches the crowd, but then that's me editing the video, and there's really little point in that. Which is why I wanted to impress on you the fact that the video has been cut, and we've seen where the cut is, and the fact that that will delay the audio. So now I'm going to take this to a speed faster than normal speed. We'll zoom out just a little bit more. And we'll play it again. Pay attention to the crowd. Crowd moves in. As the crowd starts moving away, then we hear the gunshots. You see, just at the last minute, they move more suddenly. So now we speed it up, faster still. Moving in, moving away. Boom. Because there's less time difference, now the video is faster. The time delay is less apparent, and we see now the reaction of the crowd. So I'll continue to play that. Right at the last minute, you see the sudden movement. There you go. That's really the best way I can put it. You can make your own decision on that. But what we have now, I have, I suppose, a theory as to what's happening here. There's an altercation. And this altercation, as I mentioned earlier, reconfigures this scene, which will hopefully reinforce understanding of this altercation to some degree. And we can also now begin to focus on the order of events. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to load a new video, one that I used in my last presentation, and we're going to study that video, bearing in mind everything we've learnt from this video. Okay? Now, this is the same scene. It looks perhaps a bit odd from this angle, but you'll soon see that it is in fact the same scene. There's a whole lot more space behind this vehicle than we could imagine looking from the other angle, from the bus, from inside the bus. So I'm going to play this, and I've disabled the soundtrack on this for a very good reason. The soundtrack on this footage in no way relates to this footage. There's no sound correspondence between the audio track and the video track. The twain do not meet, and nor does it tally with the previous bus footage in any way. And it's very distractive, very distractive. So I've disabled it, we don't need it. And this particular track, this particular video has nothing to do with the audio anyway. We need to observe some other things in this video. Now the first thing we observe is this space here in front of the car. Just here, this space. We can see here, now I know this is very poor quality and I have a better copy of this. Unfortunately, the better copy, the higher resolution, doesn't have the earlier frames that this has. This is the only video I've been able to find that has frames at the beginning of the footage that align with the frames from the inside bus footage from the other angle. So anyway, we'll get to that. So first thing I noticed here going across the floor was what I assumed, because it looked like a skid mark, and I followed it through just simply by eye, and I guess that probably corresponded with the offside, that is the right hand front wheel, and that perhaps this vehicle had skidded across the path, and this was the mark left by the tyre of the offside front wheel. However, for a number of reasons, I've now dismissed that, and when I show you the better quality copy of this video, once I've demonstrated what I need to here, I'll explain why that is. One of the reasons, quite simply, is there are no other corresponding marks from this vehicle on the pavement, and it's highly unlikely to, I think it's highly unlikely that only one tyre would leave a mark. You'd have 4 tyres. You'd have 4 tyre marks, unless this car skidded on the front offside wheel only, with no other wheels touching the pavement. So I've dismissed it primarily for that reason, but also for other reasons that I can explain better when we have a better detailed video in front of us. Anyway, the reason I've loaded this video is it has a few opening frames. We always find this nonsense, these warnings on this kind of video. This is a propagated video. This is a propagated video. Okay. Nothing nasty to see here. Okay, so these are the opening frames. Just as the mask falls, first frame is quite dim, and we can't see much anyway because we're quite a way away. But what we see, and I'll tell you who this is for a start. In the last footage from the other angle, I described a figure standing with a ponytail. That was the figure that the other person who was coming forward from our right view fell against, and they both fell back together. This is the ponytail figure, as you will soon see. Okay, and what he's doing here, there are 2 people laying under the front of this car. There's a female in a blue jacket, and there's a young male with bright red trainers, pale blue jeans, and a backpack, and I believe a white t-shirt of some kind, pulled up, revealing his back. And this ponytailed character here is bending over him. That's what we see here, okay? Just as we come into the frame. I can't go any further back from that, that's all it will reveal. But this is the earliest footage I have of this scene. So, I'm going to play this very slowly. I've learnt my lesson with the flickering, so I'm just going to slow it down very slow and play it for you. And then we'll stop and talk. Okay. Now he stands, and something happened there, okay? That's why this particular bad quality video is important. So I'm going to take it back again to where he's bending over, and I'm going to slow it down even more. Very slow now. Okay, here we go. He stands, something happens. He's holding up his right arm. Now this is the part that corresponds, here he is, to our character with the hood. This is the person with the hood and his outstretched arms. He's just falling towards our ponytailed friend. Now, I have to tell you, there, that's the scene. That's the scene we observed from the other view. So to the left of this character, let's just put some colour in this. Oops. There we go. Now, so there's another person to the left of this orange-jacketed, ponytailed person, standing immediately to his left. So this person here, our hooded person, appears to be launching himself at this person. Now, I don't see a weapon in this person's arm. I think this is just a reflex. He's risen after, let's just go back. So there he is, leaning over the body here. Okay, leaning over the body. And he suddenly rises. I think it's shock. Because this creeps me out a little bit. I have to say it is a bit creepy, because I know there are two people pinned under this car, and we will see that shortly. They're there. But they're the only two people there. This figure appears to be crouching in front of the car. He's not walking. We don't see anybody walk in front of the car. Look. Nobody's walking in front of that car. It's as though someone's hiding behind the car. Either way, we can't see them. And this person here in the orange jacket, I don't believe is aware there's someone there when he leans over to interfere with this person laying in front of the car. And I use the word interfere, and that will become clear soon also. So look, if I just move a few frames, excuse the flicker. I can't see it, but I know it's being recorded with a flicker. Here, he suddenly becomes aware there's somebody there who isn't laying down pinned under the car. You can see his response. He's almost falling away. He can't get away quick enough. Someone's jumping up in front of him. And the next couple of frames reveals that. There he is, moving as fast away as he can. Unfortunately, the camera goes out of shot, but within 2 or 3 frames, we're back in again. And there is an altercation. There's our altercation right here. Right here. There's the face of the person. He's just launched himself from in front of the car. It's a bit creepy, I have to say. Boom. There they are. There's the altercation. Just there. It's kind of a flash wrestle. Trying to push past him. But of course the one thing we can't see is the character to the left of this person who is extending his arm. So we don't know if this person is responding to this person or whether this person, which we can't see, is responding to this person. Either way, this person seems quite shocked by their stance and their motion. They go from leaning over to suddenly falling away. Something's happening. I need to get away quickly. And I think his arm, rather than pointing, is just flaying backwards to catch his balance. As this figure here, as we can see, this figure here launches forward towards him. There. There's the face, there's the hoodie, and there's the arms spread out to the side actually, as if they're about to grab, perhaps. That's how it looks. Now there are so few frames here that if it were cut, it would be unlikely that we would know where it was cut exactly. But what we will see, as I play through, okay, crouching, Someone jumps from behind the front of the car there, grapples with that person, they flay back, we go out of shot. But when we come back, they've gone. Now, I think what happened there is that somehow, with the momentum, this person managed to turn, perhaps into the other person, who I believe is an associate of some kind, and that other person then took on the responsibility of the person that just launched themselves forward from the front of the car, whilst this person here continues to do what he had intended to do. So there's a partnership here. Now this person, I'll tell you what they're doing now. What they are doing is they are retrieving something from the body, from the young male body laying on his side. There's a better shot of this just here in another video that I will show you. And you can see quite distinctly he reaches down not to aid the person or to check them, but to interfere with them. He reaches to his lower half and takes something from him. He then stands up and he puts whatever he took from the body into his jacket inside pocket, which I also demonstrated in the last video I made. But I didn't narrate over that, I just left you to think about that. Okay, so you can go back and watch that if you like. There's some nice clear edits there. But we'll just continue on here. Okay, so this person is now free to do what they had intended to do, because the person who had just launched themselves from this place somewhere at this person is now being dealt with by this person's partner or associate. Now this is still before we hear the gunshots. As we're going so slow, it's actually quite a way before. But anyway, so we'll let it progress. Now he stands up. He has what he needs. And he begins to turn away from the scene whilst secreting this here that he's just collected from this body here into his inside jacket pocket. There. Okay, I'll just play that for you again. Okay, being wrestled. We're out of shot. We're back into shot. That problem has been dealt with. He can now get back on with his task, which he completes in a short time. He's got what he wants. He stands up, he turns away from the scene. That's who he is, that's what he looks like. He's got a moustache as well, and a ponytail, and a bright orange jacket. I'm sure you know this man. Here, he is concealing his booty. No, I don't believe this is a common thief. There's something specific. This is organised. There's two of them working here at this moment. And he's concealing this, whatever it is, into his inside jacket pocket. There. There. Okay. Now I'll let this play on. Another man runs in front of the car. We also see that in the other footage. So that's corresponding also. So this is the same footage. It's the same scene, the same moment. I think they expect us to see this as well. We're expected to notice that the near side wing mirror is missing from this vehicle, I've identified this wing mirror on the bridge. Okay, this wing mirror is on the bridge. If not this wing mirror, then one like it, and I think we're meant to notice this. Now that doesn't mean that this car was on the bridge. It doesn't mean it wasn't on the bridge. It just means we're meant to notice this. So don't be too surprised about that. There's lots of things we're meant to notice, I believe. So there's our character there who walked in front of the car. He's going to check on a body that is laying the other side of the car some distance down the road, that we are to believe was hit by this vehicle as it mounted the pavement. Back to Ponytail Man. He's still loitering. He's having a little dig. What he's doing now, and we'll see this better in some other footage, what he's doing now is he's got a camera and he's taking shots of this scene. I believe. I don't see a camera. I just see the actions he's going through, and they're very reminiscent of somebody taking close-up shots of a situation. So you just watch him now. He's got what he wanted, but he's not going away. He's still there. He just needs to be there for a while longer. And he's now raising his arms to his face. I believe he's got a camera of some kind. See the enormous space here between the vehicle and the wall. I didn't pixelate these people, somebody else has. I have an unpixelated version, which is important. Okay, and once again, just as we sweep away from this scene, remember the space in front of this car. Here again are the marks as we pan away, and another cross mark, which is something different again. There's also a footprint just before the back wheel here as we move away. Now we will swing back around, and I want you to remember the space in front of this car. Right. I had this also in my previous presentation. So now I'm going to tell you what this is. And I have a better quality copy of it. This is the front of a black Land Rover. Now, if you didn't watch my previous video, maybe now is a good time to go and watch that, because that explains the relevance of this vehicle. This is the number plate of the black Land Rover, which I show you in my previous presentation. Okay. Here is the black Nissan 4x4 crew cab. I believe it has one occupant at least in the driver's seat, and perhaps one passenger in the back of the crew cab. The Land Rover also has a driver present in the vehicle, and they're both parked together, one behind the other. Something else I'll show you in better detail. Round about here, I can just zoom in there. Round about here, you'll see a figure. This is a cyclist. This is actually a police cyclist, not dressed in police uniform, but this is a cyclist who is a police officer. And he's just come through the lights there, coming the wrong way on the cycle path towards this incident. Again, I'll show you this clearer. These are important things because this is our time reference. The scene, everything that's going on around here, this is our reference for time. At least relative time, relative from one scene to another. So this is a cyclist. He has a red rucksack. I think he might have a red top, I can't remember now. And he has a white police issue safety helmet on and a pair of dark shorts. So back to our scene one more time before I load a better video for you. I need to say something about the damage on this vehicle as well, but I'm not going to at this point because we've bigger fish to fry. Okay, there's the scene in front of the car. And there again, we must remember here, just before I close this video, this space here is important. This space here is critically important. Okay? This space here is important. The fact that the police officer has just joined this road coming towards this incident is also important. The fact that there was an altercation here coming from the front of the vehicle, rather creepily, is also very important. The whole thing's important, everything's important. Even the markings here on the floor of this cycle. This is important, this cycle lane sign, this is also important. Everything is important, but we need to focus. So, I'm going to load another video. I'll be back with you in one moment. Okay, so you're going to have to excuse this logo in the middle here that somebody's embedded in this video. I didn't put that. It means nothing to me. I expect it's supposed to make us think something, I don't know. But somebody's decided to put this here. It says propaganda machine. I'm not suggesting this is propaganda at all. I don't quite know what it is. I'm just showing you what it is. That's really all I'm interested in now. This is really poor quality, but I'm showing you this for a reason. Excuse the flickering once again. Sorry about that. I'm going to go back to the front. So this is the same scene. This is our ponytail man leaning over the body here. Now, although this is really poor quality video, the body isn't pixelated, or the bodies are not pixelated, so that is to our advantage. So I'm just going to go back. There's our altercation point, which we've studied in our previous shot just there. Okay, problem solved. Now, interfering with the body there. Boom, boom, boom. As I say, there is, if you want to refer to my previous video, I would highly recommend it. You'll also fall in on the narrative a little bit better. It's all really the same thing, but this particular scene I study in my last presentation. Although I don't narrate it, it's better to watch. So he's done what he's done. He's got what he's got, as you can see, or as you will see. This is the lower half of this victim's body. This is the rump, this is the lower legs. He's in a fetal position. This is the back and a rucksack, okay? So when he leans over here, he's with his lower end, his hands are on the lower part of his body, around his pocket or waist area, with his right arm and perhaps the left arm by his upper thigh. Again, I would highly recommend you go back to the previous video for this. Now, so he's got what he wanted to get. This was the position he assumed before the altercation, and so after the altercation he reassumes this position to retrieve whatever it is. Now, it could be something he's dropped, it could be an open wallet full of £50 notes, but I believe it's something different, as I say, because he's partnered, he's not alone, and this will become more obvious as we go through this. So he secretes whatever he's got there. That's the point at which he places it from his right hand. He opens his jacket with his left hand and he puts whatever he has in his right hand into his inside jacket pocket, as we can plainly see there, and as we've seen in the previous shot, and again, as I say, is in my previous video. So down here, this is the young man's back, this is his t-shirt, and this is what appears to be a rucksack kind of twisted around, and these are the straps of the rucksack. This here, incidentally, is a shoe. It's a Nike bright red trainer. I did also think perhaps this could be one of the shoe places, because if you're following this in any way, then you understand there's a shoe thing that goes on that we will talk about at some point. So I suspected he might be a shoe placer. I think perhaps not. I think that's already been sorted. So there's the Nike shoe by the front wheel, front near side wheel. There. That Nike belongs to this young man here. There we see one Nike on and one Nike off. This is quite typical of these scenes. Okay, quite typical. Now that's the only reason I loaded this video. I just thought you needed to see what's in front. Now I'm just going to quickly look for another sample that I may have. But something else that I need to let you know right here, right now, is this person. This is a lady in a blue jacket. I think it's female in a blue jacket. And this person is still animated. They're not out, they're moving. Now if you look just above where it says prop, here in this area, focus on this area. I know it's going to flicker, and apologies for that, but focus on this area here and you'll see movement. Just there. And here now, there. There's movement. There's movement here and there's movement here. This person is moving. Okay? There. But they're not being attended to. This person here, the ponytail man, is not interested. He's not there to care for these people. I'll show you this better, actually, much better. But just to let you know there. And again, enormous space in front of this vehicle. Damage really not consistent with this scene. But as I said earlier, we'll talk about that another time. So there we go. Okay, Nike off by the wheel. I'll be back shortly. Okay, so I just reloaded the previous footage of this car, the one with the pixelated victims, and we need to just learn something about this vehicle and its placement on this scene. Now, I'm going to add a little filtering here. Add some colour, some saturation. Oops. There we go. So, what we have here is what I first described as what looked like a skid mark. But there's one crosses it that comes from nowhere and goes nowhere. Also, as I previously said, the notion that this vehicle could arrive on this pavement from a cycle path over a curb and skid to a halt on one tyre alone, I feel is unlikely. So I've dismissed this as being a skid mark. It's also, it wavers also. So it's curious. And I might have an explanation for it, but it's curious. Okay, well, I kept talking about better quality, so what I did there is I just quickly loaded the better quality version. So I don't have to keep referencing it. Okay, so let's just find our position again. Okay, so they are our marks I was referring to. This is a lot smoother image, so I won't make a comment. I'll just move on to the footprint I was talking about, which is there. Now with this, because this is slightly better quality, we can actually see footprint. There. Right there, and I just added a little bit of pixel sharpening there. So this is the print at the bottom of a boot. There. And I would suggest perhaps, strangely enough, a mark just in front of the tyre. That appears to correspond with the tyre, but that's not very definite. Okay, filtering off. So now we move to the back of the car. And this is where it gets interesting as far as the positioning of this car. Let's remove some of this, is a bit heavy. So, what we're looking at here, this is a puddle. It's recently rained, the road is wet and it's drying out. So what we have is the tarmac here is wet or damp, and here there is a small puddle of a few inches just before the curb. On the curbstones themselves there are small puddles, Okay, and we can see the damp in the cracks here where the road and the pavement is just drying out. So the road is still a little wet. There's a puddle here, there's small puddles on the curbstones, there's damp between the grout or the cement on the paving stones, and in between the paving stones, just like the curbstones, is beginning to dry. So these are dry with wet patches and a puddle. Now, bearing in mind that this vehicle has just mounted the curb here, okay, let's see if we can smooth this a bit. I don't want, if we bleach it slightly, we just want to smooth. It's the gamma. Sorry, jumping about. Okay, I think that's about as good as I can get it contrast-wise for this particular part of the image. Just a bit more saturation. So as we can see, I think quite clearly, this here is completely barren of markings. There are no markings here. There are no markings here, and there are no markings either on the edge of the curb. There's nothing to suggest that this tyre has passed across this pavement or this curbstone. If it had have done so, it would most likely have interfered with these small puddles here and would have made a corresponding drag mark along the path of the car. And if the car travelled at speed against the curb, so the tyre would have been compressed against the edge of the curb. These are quite steep. I think it's anywhere between 4 and 6 inches is the height of a curb, really depending on the surface, of course, how many times it's been resurfaced. So the tyre, which is quite a low profile tyre, would have impacted here with this curb at any speed really, and would have picked up water from this puddle here, which would have marked across the curbstone here, and certainly further up as the wheel rotated we would see further corresponding marks. I think we'd also see a good deal of water on the curb itself as the water splashed up and around the area of impact. So I don't believe that this back tyre here has impacted in any way with this curb. There's just nothing corresponding to that. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Nor is there anything corresponding with it having broadsided there. Similarly, we would have seen rubber marks, damp drag marks. The edge of the tyre appears to be wet. I can't say that it is, but it appears to be wet and slightly muddy. So I'm guessing, had it moved across this pavement at all, we would see somewhere some imprint, either from the side or from the back. The edge of the curb, through the puddle, there's just nothing, unfortunately. There's just nothing there. Like I say, I had to dismiss these. I think something else has occurred here. I'm still giving this thought. One of my thoughts, just to let you in on how I'm thinking about it, is that possibly this was placed here by a crane or dropped from a tail lift and shoved onto the pavement quickly, something like that, dumped from the back of a lorry, or even a forklift truck could have made these peculiar marks with sharp turns like this. I don't know, I'm still giving it thought, and there's some other material I need to examine before I can really even begin to offer a solution to this. But it matters not anyway. So there you go, puddle, water, dry curbs, no pavement markings. Also, on the other side of this vehicle, it's the same. There are no markings corresponding to any vehicle having crossed and settled in this position, so it's anybody's guess how it actually arrived here. But there's nothing there to tell me that it arrived there itself. And as I have also mentioned, I will discuss the damage to the front of the vehicle. As we've seen the front of the vehicle, we can also quite plainly see that there is absolutely no damage to the wall here. Nothing at all to indicate that there's been any collision there. The patina of the wall itself hasn't even been disturbed. This is a marking, this is an embedded marking in the wall, this isn't damage. This is a part of the cement casting of this wall. This is not vehicle damage. And besides which, we see nothing below the wall to indicate that anything has come from the wall. There's simply nothing here. Okay, so we've got a clean wall, and we've also got a clean path in front of the wall. If we get that view, or maybe that was in the video. We get that view, that's good. So let me just clean that up a little bit for you. There we go. So there's some bits and pieces, but considering the whole front valance is missing, the grille is entirely gone, the whole front panel leading to the bonnet has disintegrated. There's no radiator, the engine is crushed at the front, the engine components, that will be the crank pulley, the fan pulley, all of the things required for this vehicle to function. I hope to show you later, but you can see an example of here. It really just isn't there. There's nothing there that would help this car propel itself down the road. There's a huge space, there's approximately 1 metre in front of this vehicle, and although there are some things scattered about on the floor, nothing that would explain this loss here, so we can only assume this loss happened somewhere else. And indeed, if we look at the bridge footage, there's wreckage that could be consistent with this scattered everywhere. Again, that doesn't suggest, or well, it does suggest, but it doesn't mean that this vehicle was on the bridge. It just means that some parts of this vehicle are on the bridge, and this vehicle is not. So, bearing in mind that it would require those components in order to function, I don't see that it could lose those components on the bridge and then arrive here under its own steam. It just doesn't seem feasible. So that's my thinking on that. Okay, now I'm going to close the videos for the time being. Well, I'm going to close this video. We're going to quickly go back to the video taken from the inside of the bus. Whilst we're here, I'll show you that bus. So this is that bus. There's this guy here. He's part of this, and you'll see that also. There's the police cyclist up there, just coming down the road. This is the Passat that we see and I'll remind you now because we're about to see it again. This is the Volkswagen Passat. I'm calling it a Passat. I presume it's a Passat. This is the silver Volkswagen Passat that is parked or temporarily stopped on the left turn marker on the tarmac here. Okay, and this is where the road edge ends, and there's a small pavement before we come onto the cycle path. This here in the background in front of the Passat, the big red bus, that's the bus from which the footage we're about to go to is being filmed inside of this bus. This is curved glass here. Okay, it's not this one. Okay, this is the wrong angle. It's this one here. It almost crosses the bonnet of the Passat and aligns with the crashed vehicle in the wall. So we'll go there now. I'll just quickly give you a slightly better shot of our policeman friend here. There he is. There's our policeman riding his bicycle. Empty road. Completely empty road. So something's preventing traffic coming into this area. This isn't really normal. I'm a Londoner. I know these places. I know London. Right. So, this is the same piece of video that I downloaded. Sorry again for the flickering. And there's a break. There's a major edit in this where it appears they turn the video camera off and they reposition themselves across the other side of the road. Okay, so this is the same scene from across the other side of the road. There's the crew cab Nissan. Here is our police cyclist. And then for some reason it goes back to the original footage. Now I know I'm being very long-winded. I'm not really a presenter and I'm not really a very good narrator, so I'm just talking you through it as my brain works on it, which is a little bit slow in my brain. So you're just going to have to be patient with me. I think it's important. I'd rather be too slow and repeat myself than have you miss anything. Okay, so what we have here is something you may also be familiar with. This is, I call him Cardboard Box Man. He also is something to do with this. In fact, everybody we see is something to do with this. There isn't a single person, I believe, personally, on this scene that isn't something to do with this scene. I don't think there's anything accidental here about anything. Excuse me. Now, this is our policeman. Okay, he's parked his bike here. This is Cardboard Box Man. And what we'll do now, Cardboard Box Man, remember? Policeman, remember? So he's now arrived. We're a little way down in time. Okay. Cardboard Box Man seems to do nothing in particular other than arrive with a piece of cardboard, wander around a little bit, and then he places the piece of cardboard against the wall there, just in front of one of the pillars. Now, it was suggested that he was covering up somebody, but I show that he actually just arrives. He hasn't seen the front of the vehicle, and he should in no way know that there's anything even to be covered up. But he doesn't actually cover anybody up. He simply stands this piece of cardboard against the wall. And the cardboard is important. I don't know how it's important to him or what its intention is, but it's important to us. Now, underneath these pixelations here, there's another body, victim, and there is our policeman with his bicycle just parking it against the fence there. And then we're gone, we're out of here. Okay, so Excuse me one moment. This is the bus footage. So this is the silver Passat that I showed you in the other shot, sitting on the left-hand turn, painted tarmac sign. And so we are viewing this from within that bus that I also pointed out to you. Off to the right of this van is a body laying on the pavement. Round about here is his shoe. He also only has one shoe on. And what we're looking for here is Cardboard Box Man. Here's our policeman. He's just arrived here. Okay. This is our policeman on a cycle. He just parks his bike up. There something happens. This is where the shots happen and the people start moving back. Cardboard Box Man is already on the move here. He's decided to bring his cardboard to the scene. Where he got the cardboard from, I don't know. This is one of the cleanest boroughs in London. You drop so much as a cigarette butt and you're for a £120 fine. So I don't know where he found cardboard lying about. Perhaps he brought it with him. I don't know. Perhaps it came from another vehicle, but it looks wet. It looks like it's been standing somewhere. So this is Cardboard Box Man. Shots have just gone off. People have just moved back. And he carries on with his cardboard. Okay. There's Cardboard Box Man. Okay, there. So, Cardboard Box Man plays an important part here because that's as far as we go in this video. But we know this is Cardboard Box Man. There's his cardboard. We saw him in the previous clip. He walks along here. He walks across this piece of debris here. He pauses for a moment. He then moves to the left and he stands his cardboard here on this pillar. And then he leaves the scene. That's his job done. Okay? But what the cardboard does for us is it marks our timeline. So whenever we see cardboard here, we know that anything occurring in that scene has occurred after this, after the altercation, after Ponytail Man has retrieved whatever he has retrieved, after the people have moved forward and moved back, just after the gunshots. Everything that has happened up to that point. Bicycle policeman arriving, this man laying on the road, the two people pinned underneath, the man or person who arose from in front of this vehicle and lurched towards Ponytail Man. All of that has happened. Once we see cardboard here, we know where we are in the timeline. We don't have a time, but we do have the sequence of events. Okay? So I'm going to close this video now and move along. What we've got here is some still images that we just need to study. So I'm going to begin to bring this tutorial to a close, and really showing you these images brings us back again to the last tutorial where I left you with a few images that I thought were important, and I asked you to consider what they meant and to study them. And so now that we've discussed what we've discussed, I think it's really time to look back at those images. So You're going to have to excuse me zooming in and out like this because they're all different sizes and I haven't taken the time to scale them for presentation, so we'll just ride it by the seat of our pants. Now, here's the cardboard, so we know where we are in the timeline. We know what's gone before here. Suddenly there are police on the scene, and suddenly things have changed. Now we know bicycle policeman's here because in the top right hand corner here we see his bicycle, and leaning over the front of the vehicle we see bicycle policeman himself. We also know that before the scene, before the altercation, before the crowd scene, before these police arrived, but not before police cyclist arrived, but before Cardboard Man arrived, that there was a space in front of this vehicle. Okay? Simply put, the person that is now laying here wasn't laying here before. Now, you can go back and reference this if you like, but I don't identify this as the female that's laying in front of this vehicle, simply because she has different clothes, she had different coloured hair, she had more hair. And you wouldn't move somebody from this position to this position if they'd just been smashed to pieces by a car. In fact, you'd avoid moving them at all costs. And if they felt necessary to move them at all for any such reason, if this was to be the female, just thinking through it, then you would bring her in this direction where there are no obstacles and you can move her just a few feet to safety. You wouldn't want to drag her over the other body and round the front of the smashed car to this position and then lay her out vertical with her legs against the car here. So this is a new person, this is a new body, okay? This wasn't here before. This body was, and the other one apparently is being looked at closer by this policeman here. So this is really just a reference piece. So after the altercation, after Cardboard Man, after all said and done, we have a new configuration for this scene. Right, now on to the next slide. This was also a picture I left you with in the last video. This is a good picture for many, many reasons. We see the black Land Rover. A black Land Rover was described by at least one witness explicitly on the bridge. That's also referenced in my previous video. A black 4x4 was also referenced by witnesses on the bridge, but not specifically a Land Rover. Here is another black 4x4 crew cab. This is the silver Hyundai i40. I believe that's what they say it is. Most likely it is. So we have a collection of vehicles here. This one has a driver present, but it's parked. And we can show that in the videos if we want to toggle them backwards and forwards. We can see this vehicle is parked. There is a point in one of the videos where we can see this vehicle just drawing to a halt in this position. So I presume, and it is just a presumption, that they were travelling together and they've just both drawn up here together. So now what's interesting is this car, this picture was tagged as the moment the Hyundai impacted and crashed. before the driver ejected and ran around here to these gates here, round the corner, and entered and had an altercation with a policeman, and the policeman suffered loss of life for this. He was then gunned down by a ministerial bodyguard. We'll get into that later. So this is after that. We know it hasn't just happened also, because things have changed again here. Okay, things have changed again. There's a body here, and I have another picture I need yet to load that will give you a better detail of this. This is a body being unattended, so we can see better the situation. Notice also that the cardboard is here, but it's slightly skew. It's fallen on its side slightly, and we can see that better also in the previous image. It's on its side. So again, we know where we are in the timeline. Police cyclist has arrived. Cardboard man's been and gone. Something's happened. There's a body on the floor here. This is a new addition. Okay? We have 3 of the described vehicles by the witnesses. All 3 of these vehicles have been described by witnesses, all in the same place, at the same time, in the same frame. Okay? Now, the crowd has gone. There's no crowd, and there are no uniformed officers. This guy we saw operating with the uniformed officers. They didn't ask him to stand away. They didn't want him not to interfere with the scene, therefore he is a policeman. As the crowd has moved away, and there are no uniformed officers here, I would assume that everybody here, except perhaps one, and the people laying on the ground injured, everybody here is with some department or another. Else they wouldn't be here. It's really that simple. Bearing in mind what's gone on, what we've seen occur, okay, bearing all that in mind, how much time must have passed? This is already a controlled scene. There's no two ways about it. Everybody here knows who everybody else is. This, however, is different. This man here has his arm pointed at this man here. He appears to be holding something. This man appears to be holding his arms up. These people here seem to be focusing on this guy here. This person here is definitely focusing on this guy here. 2 people are moving in from the left, approaching this scene. So this is the new scene, okay? This is the new centre of the scene. This guy here, he's at the centre of this scene now. He's not like the others, okay? If this is what it looks like, okay? It looks like this is a surrender, and this guy is in charge of this person now. These people are looking on cautiously. Okay? Driver in the Land Rover. Perhaps a driver here. Maybe this person came from this vehicle, I don't know. But I'll show you why I think that might be the case. Right. Here we see a different shot in time. These people have all changed. This guy is getting on with some kind of business with this guy. I'm thinking this guy down here on the floor might be a policeman, I'm not sure. just a hunch. This guy's a policeman, he's on his phone, talking about the situation. This guy's a policeman, he's just standing by. This guy's in the thick of it. Now why I say I thought the guy holding the gun on this guy came from this car is because we see the same person here, very close to the car, but with his back turned to this person. However, this person is still in the surrender position, and I have overlaid this picture with the last picture. He has actually moved slightly, so he's not inanimate, but he still has his hands raised, whereas everybody else has changed, everything else is reconfigured. This guy remains still, he dare not move, I believe. So I believe there's someone else here who has control of this person that we can't see. Perhaps someone from the window of the rear of the crew cab on the near side. But this person is facing forward, and this was the person who was pointing what I assume to be a weapon at this person here. So we just go back to that scene, which is there. And we now see the person that was there is now there, and he's pointing at this person, and he's still surrendering. As you can see, he's slightly moved, but he's still got his arms up. More to this. So, bearing in mind our timeline, this is the bridge road. He's come off the bridge main road, slipped into the cycle lane here, and somehow, apparently, mounted this pavement without leaving any marks on the pavement, not crashing into the wall, losing the front of the vehicle, making it undrivable, yet arriving here, having the strange altercation, having the interference from Ponytail Man, adding a body to the scene that was not there before. Sorry, let us just go back to that. I did say I would verify that a bit better for you. This is slightly different. This is the body, but it's animated, okay? And he's reaching out, she is reaching out toward this person, like, help me perhaps, something like that, or, oh my God, it really hurts, or I've just tripped and stumbled, could you help me up please, something like that. So there is your body, okay? Hands up, man. Everybody else is the police, perhaps even the person on the floor here. Just a quick reminder there before the scene. And as you remember, I did draw your attention to the space in front of the other side, the near side of the car, where there was nobody. We analysed the lines on the floor, the footprint under the front of the back tyre, maybe even a tyre print itself from a bounce or something. We analysed all that. We know there was nobody at that time. So this is prior to the pictures we've just seen. Here's the crowd. So this is definitely prior. This would have been more immediate to the supposed collision. This would have been nearer that time, or nearer the time that the vehicle arrived at this space. Perhaps that's a better way to put it. Okay, nearer the event that caused this this scene here. So then the people are moved off after all of that. They're gone. It's also interesting that none of them have cell phones. I find that really interesting. Anyway, that's another story. So we know there's nobody there. We know there's two bodies there. We've seen them. We know there's a body here. We know there was an altercation. We know there were some shots, perhaps they came from the Palace Gardens. This is supposedly around the same time. So let's just assume for the moment that those shots came from the Palace Garden. And let's just say that these people surging back at the time of the shots had nothing to do with that and was just coincidental. Let's just suppose for one moment that's the way that panned out. Okay? Let's allay our suspicions just for one moment. This is the scene. Bearing in mind, this happened all in less than 2 minutes. First impact at exactly, they say, exactly 1440. Okay? Between then and the shooting of the driver of this car, who supposedly ejected, ran down the pavement, ran round the corner, which is physically possible, and you could do it in good time, it's not that far, is then shot by 1441. And as I said earlier, that puts this vehicle in the official narrative as somewhere between 1440 and 1441. Because we hear the shots. So we know that. We hear the shots. On all the videos we hear the shots. So that's 1441. So this is 1441. We know because we've seen the altercation, we've heard the shots, the crowd has moved back. It's that moment. And that moment is marked by Cardboard Man. Okay? At 1441, this is occurring. Now, there's video available for this scene, which requires some analysis. So, for the sake of this video, I'm not going to go there. I'm just going to say, you're probably familiar with it anyway. There's action here. A whole lot kicks off. There's beyond this gate, there's a blue BMW with one of the ministers in it. Inside that blue BMW is an armament box, and the bodyguard for that minister takes the armament from the box, the security box, inside a bulletproof BMW. He's the person you see here. This is apparently the bodyguard, and this is apparently the assailant, Masood. He has just shot him to the floor. After Masood apparently stabbed somebody just off shot here, which is the unfortunate police officer that died. Okay, so this is the bodyguard. Now my next video will present this scene and we'll discuss it in some length because it really ties in with the scene we've just discussed in this video. So I'm just quickly showing you this scene. There's a whole lot goes on in this scene. You will notice in the video when we eventually come to it that there's a lot more bodies here. There's a lot of activity by the gate. There's an officer or a guard closing the gate as all this unfolds. There's people buzzing around. The minister's car leaves immediately, so there's an exit from an open gate, the BMW, without the security guard. And there's just a whole lot of buzz going on all of a sudden here. There's also been some kind of a presentation with a boxer, a well-known boxer in the palace hall itself, which is just rear of our view here. There's a large doorway, and in that doorway there's a whole bunch of people filming this. So there's a lot of activity going on, and there was some activity here prior to this incident. So he got quite close to the Westminster Palace entrance, which is probably the distance from here to this end of frame twice again, and you would actually be at the palace entrance, Westminster Palace that is. So anyway, that's that whole bunch of activity there. So this is the moment after which all that has occurred, okay? Because the crowd has gone, the altercation has finished, the shots are over and done with, wherever they came from. And as I said, let's just run with the official narrative for a moment. So, because the shots have gone off and everything's gone haywire and all that activity kicked off, we should be seeing some good activity here. and not on this particular shot, but I have done some work on this shot. I've done some cleaning up and some freshening, and I'm looking for activity in the palace grounds. Now, this is the Westminster Palace entrance that I was talking about just now, where there was something going on with a famous boxer and some filming. And so there was a whole bunch of people here doing stuff. Further down here, there's a whole bunch of people running around in bright green day glow police jackets, all running around in different directions. There's a whole lot of activity here around the guard houses, where the guards have come out. There's people buzzing around, and there's also a BMW car leaving or just left. We've also got the footage of it not only leaving but actually turning out into the road. We may get onto that. But as far as I can see in this scene, apart from one solitary figure, perhaps in a green jacket here, and I'm not going to get into it at the moment, contrasting and improving this image for you, you just have to take my word for it. But you can probably see there's one figure here, dark trousers, bright jacket of some sort, maybe a white shirt, but it has a tinge of green to it, so I'm figuring that's a luminous jacket. Beyond that, I see nothing. There's nothing going on in the background here. I don't see anything going on in the background here. So I don't see dozens of people running around, that's for sure. I don't see armed people running to all of the perimeters, as one would expect. I don't see any buzz going on in the background. What I do see in the foreground is somebody here being controlled, being contained in this situation. We see 3 witnessed vehicles here. We see a whole bunch of police, non-uniform. So they'll be from all different special divisions, perhaps some palace security, perhaps even some CID, although I doubt very much there would be any CID here. So there's, and perhaps some military, even. So I'm just going to flip forward here to this one. So here again, same scene, but I would hazard a guess just a little bit further down the road, because we have some of the same players that we just saw in the previous scene. Okay, these guys here, this guy here, these were in the previous scene. Okay, we now have someone in attendance at the back of the fence here as well, looking on. We have a high security officer here, uniformed police officer, carrying a military weapon. So we know he's well trained, he's high up there, he's an important person. You don't get to walk around looking like this. He'll be one of the palace security, metropolitan security officers. He also, and this is your local beat officer, who's probably just arrived on the scene out of curiosity, if nothing else. Now, I doubt very much he knows anything about this. These guys are on the perimeter, just like this guy. He's also on the perimeter. These are obviously uniformed officers. So I think it's a given that these guys are in charge of this scene, and these guys here are somehow respecting that. Because if these weren't police officers and they weren't outranked, then the role would be reversed. These people would have to move away from the scene, and these officers would stand and control the scene. Okay. So, okay, I'm going on a bit now, so I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there for now. But I know it's been long-winded, and I really thank you for staying with me, and apologies for not working through this a bit more fluently. It's just very complicated. It's complicated for lots of reasons, and it's complicated for so many reasons that I haven't even begun to touch yet. Excuse me. For example, one of which where these pictures are being taken from. Opposite this picture opposite this scene, there are ministerial quarters. I'll talk about that in my next presentation, and I'll try and get it together a bit more and make some better notes. Not that I've actually used any notes at all here today. And I'll show you that building. I'll indicate who is responsible for this image and for this image. Okay, we can locate this point more or less exactly, the office from which this was taken. Okay, so that's one thing we'll look into. The other thing we're going to need to look at, and we do have to look at it, is this scene here, okay, in more detail. We will rediscuss this, but I think it will really only be tying loose ends together, but we need to move beyond this scene really in order that we can come back to it with a better understanding, I believe. And then we need to rediscuss the bridge and some of the witnesses there. Now, as I said before, just in closing, and I'm going to try and stress this as much as I can, this isn't about pointing fingers for me. That always seems to be a fool's errand. All that does is confuse matters more. And I'm not going to be jumping around saying this person's a liar, this person's telling the truth. I'm really just discussing the scenes as I see them. Now, obviously, you know, when we speak, we can hear how our minds are working, and I'm not pretending that that isn't happening, and that's really the way I'm kind of dissecting this. I'm not going to pretend that I don't think something untoward is happening here. And I'm not going to pretend for one moment that I don't think the official narrative is in some way misplaced. Okay, that's the best I can say, the best way I can put that. I'm also not going to suggest that nobody has been hurt in any of this, okay? I think that's also a little bit naive, to say the very least. Now, it's a very mixed bag, so there is a good chance that we're going to come across some falsehoods here. There's a good chance that we're going to be seeing media play, media situations. I mean, there is an outside possibility. One just has to accept the extreme, if it was the extreme, that yes, it could all have been fate, a fate false flag, or whatever you'd like to call it. I don't think so personally. I think it's something entirely different, and as we work our way through this, I intend to spell out, not directly by, as I say, pointing fingers, but by the obviousness, hopefully, of what has occurred during the course of this incident. What is the most likely scenario, okay? Because I don't think it's what we've been led to believe. It's really that simple, and I'm just going to continue to be as simple and as plain as I can. If you can't see what I'm pointing out, then so be it. I mean, there's nothing much more I can say. You either see it or you don't. And I suppose I would wish more than anything that people who are responsible, not for misleading us, but the people who are responsible, people like this guy here, a police officer, genuine, sincere, hard-working peacekeepers, if you like, police officers who do nothing but good for the community, are out there to protect people, to defend people. When you go terracing down the road and you've drunk too much and you make a mess and you maim people and you trap yourself in a car, these are the people that come and dig you out when no one else would come anywhere near you because it's so gruesome. These people will come and dig you out. They'll breathe air into your lungs and save your lives. These people deserve respect. Okay? Whatever else happens in the world, sure, there are some nasty bastards about, we know that. And the sides aren't always clear. We don't always know where people stand. But I'm just letting you know now, we have to show some respect here. And it's to these respectful, law-abiding peacekeepers, not just the uniformed officers. I mean, I would speak also to those at higher levels, those commanders, those in charge, those astute investigators. In all departments, there are always good people. I would ask you to take a look at this material. You know better than anyone, because you deal with the rubbish and the trash and the nasty, macabre business of crime on our streets in London every day. And so you know, you're familiar, you'll see this. I know you'll see this without even blinking an eye. You will recognise how these scenes do not pertain to the narrative that we have been told. The inconsistencies are far too great. Now, apologies if that offends anybody. Like I say, I stand up for these guys, and if anything is false here, then not only are we being patronised, but we are also patronising these good people. And they need to understand that. Okay? So, next presentation, hopefully we'll pull this together a little bit more. And thank you for watching, and bye for now.